welcome to the BAP. This is the 30th of October 2016. My name is Franco, and as per normal, joining me are my co-hosts, the Nasty Woman and Bad Hombre. Welcome, fellas.
You recycled a joke.
I did.
Only no one got to hear that joke the first time round.
Exactly, and I think it's something I really want to continue with. I just love Bad Hombre and Nasty Woman.
Which is which?
I'm going to let you guys decide. Maybe it's a weekly thing.
Wrong.
So, on this day, this is sort of an on this day plus Popey Pope news. It's a 2 for 1.
2 for 1.
On this day in 1950, Pope Pius XII witnesses the miracle of the sun, inverted quotes, whilst at the Vatican.
The sun, S-U-N or S-O-N?
S-U-N.
What was the miracle? The fucker rose?
It just, basically, if you stare at it too long, you start seeing things, is basically what he saw. Or something along those lines.
Pope Pius was his
solar
name.
flares, that sort of thing. Yeah. I got bored of reading it, so I didn't really go too much.
Right, we got no detail, no depth.
Well, the depth was just...
Frank, this is a lot like a Trump policy.
Well, you know, someone stares at the sun, yeah, they see weird things after a while. I didn't feel there was much need to go any further. I thought, yeah, that's enough, and I was already committed to this bit of Popey Pope news.
You right, Jason?
Yes, I'm just making sure that everything is working.
Just smashing shit around the studio, grabbing things.
It's okay for you guys to just sit back and assume the technical side of things are all coming together.
It didn't work out last week, did it?
No, because I wasn't here, was I?
Well, we had to kick you out of the studio because you messed up. No, you weren't here at all, and obviously there were some problems.
Douchebag filterage. I don't really have much to offer.
I finished watching Luke Cage.
I watched another 2 episodes of Luke Cage.
You know at the end yet?
Not at the end. I'm halfway
I don't want to talk about it, but okay.
I'm only up to the TR.
You're finished, right, Jace?
You know, I can't be sure.
Talk into your microphone. That would help.
I can't be sure. I can't remember what the last episode I watched was. I'm sure there was still something going on.
Fair enough. Something going on. That's riveting radio.
Last week, Dean, you did mention that there was a much enjoyable flashback episode.
Yeah.
So I did watch that one, and
you see his costume from the 70s comic books?
I loved it.
Ever so briefly, he had it on.
I liked the way he looked at his reflection in the car mirror and said, "You look like a fool."
Yeah, I quite like that as well.
So I found that was a really good episode for giving Luke Cage a bit of backstory. They still haven't answered as to why he was falsely imprisoned, if indeed he was.
That comes up.
Okay, so that will be dealt with. They did sort of at the end try and jam in a few cross-promotional characters from other series. So they had the Doctor from Daredevil making an appearance.
She's a major character in this set.
She is?
Yep.
Does she have superpowers?
No.
Okay.
She's just a very good nurse.
She's the glue that binds them all together.
Right. She's the
fixes them up when
and to not spoil anything, but at the end of the season, she says to someone who needs a lawyer, she's like, actually, I know a really good lawyer in the city. And it's like, oh, okay, that's Daredevil, and this is all going to tie together now.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be Daredevil. It could be his partner.
She doesn't know any other lawyers. Well, it could be Foggy.
They're not going to drop a hint about, a big wink, nudge about a certain lawyer and then it not be Daredevil.
I know a really good lawyer.
And then it's just some...
He gave the Chewbacca defense in aid of O.J. Simpson. Wasn't that a Kardashian? Anyway.
So, I mean, you got this little triumvirate of Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and now Luke Cage all working together.
Which are also connected to the Marvel movies very loosely as well.
Yeah, they do mention it.
Through
the incident. Yeah.
The incident.
And Justin Hammer comes up a few times too with the gun manufacturing and stuff as well. Tony Stark's rival. I
don't always think the times are really necessary.
No, I like that they're kind of in the same world though. Like they don't. No one mentions Thor or Cap or anything.
There's something a little more satisfying about having a sort of a fuller arc where they're talking. Everything's joined together and there's references. If you're a fan of it, then you notice these references.
Even I'm not a particular fan of some of the Thor movies and like the spin-offs of Avengers so much, but I still enjoy the little nods.
I've yet to watch
Never watched Ant-Man.
Well, here's an example. I went to some amateur theatre last week where I saw an amateur theatre production of Terry Pratchett's Guards.
Right.
And, well, it was a very hit and miss affair. There was some great actors and there was some so great one. But... yeah, I mean, it was nice. I went there with my partner, who wasn't who has not read any of the material before, and I'm guessing she got a lot less out of the experience than I did because I could see the references and I could, it's interesting the way they acted that out. But
their interpretation is.
But that bit of knowledge added to it for me, but perhaps meant that
Sometimes
she-
it ruins it for you as well, though. Like if you know what was supposed to happen and they don't do
Yeah.
it service, you get all angry, and then people don't understand. Like that was really good. You're like, it
no, they
wasn't
just
quite
completely
right.
fumbled
Yeah.
this part.
Yeah.
This,
He's supposed to have a French accent and he's a Spanish one.
So you're both Terry Pratchett fans?
yeah, I am.
I haven't read a Terry Pratchett book in many years,
Okay.
but sure.
I attempted to read one of the Terry Pratchett books on the recommendation of somebody, and I was less than impressed.
See, like I said, I haven't read it since I was in high school, so
That's
for me, it
unfortunate,
could
Franco.
be.
I think that says more about you than anyone else.
Quite possibly.
When was the last time they'd read a Terry Pratchett? But when's the last time you've read one recently, right?
Probably about a year ago.
Okay, right. Okay. I haven't read one since I was in high school, so I wouldn't necessarily say it's high quality
Right.
fiction.
I mean,
because
it's, if
it could
you
be my
like Douglas
childhood
Adams,
taste.
they have very similar kinds of satirical outlooks on and absurdist kind of tendencies and things like that. So
Yeah. I think I know I did enjoy Douglas Adams, but that was quite some time ago. Maybe if I reread it now, I probably wouldn't necessarily enjoy it as much.
you're just jaded,
I
Franco.
am very jaded against the world.
You know who wrote a good book? Donald Trump, Art of the Deal. You should check it out.
Well, apparently it's the only one of the two books he's ever read.
You only need to read
Bible
2
and The Art
books.
of the Deal.
That's all you need.
And there's one more douchebag filtrage. I caught up with Fear the Walking Dead and The
Why would
Walking
you
Dead.
do that?
Well, I'm enjoying it to some extent. I
The
really
first season of Fear the Walking Dead was not good. The acting was very
Yeah,
bad.
and it's opening up some interesting questions. It has a bit of a different sort of the characters are developing in a different way than they did in Walking Dead kind of thing, because it's much more about the breakdown as it's happening and things like that. So it's interesting from that point of view. But I also caught up with the latest episode of The Walking Dead, which they put one out so far.
Which I've yet to watch.
I'm not watching it. I'm done with that
You
series.
done with it? Well, I mean, spoiler alert. They left it on a cliffhanger, which in the comics was also a bit of wasn't really a cliffhanger because you saw the result immediately. But anyone who watches the show, or sorry, read the comics, would have known approximately what was coming, and they gave you a double blind. They instead of just killing one person, they killed 2 and let you thought the one who was meant to die was going to survive for a while longer. No, you died as well. But it was interesting the way they played that out, just to differ it from the comics a little bit.
I'm very angry at The Walking Dead. Well, more importantly, not The Walking Dead itself, but AMC and Fox, who cut a deal secretly, well, not so secretly, but very quietly behind the scenes. So backtracking a little bit, up until this time, I've been able to enjoy The Walking Dead via legal mechanisms quite happily. So at first,
Oh, now it's on Foxtel, yeah.
I was able to just buy the whole season and watch it immediately after it aired in the US. And then when it became popular from people by the likes of me supporting the show, Foxtel went, hey, this is a way we can fuck over fans. We'll buy the rights to it and force them to get Foxtel.
Foxtel have been doing that for a long time. The first time I encountered it was with Jon Stewart's The Daily Show, when that used to be on commercial TV.
It used to be on free to air, it was an ABC.
And it used to be on free-to-air and stuff like that, and then suddenly disappeared. And the only way you could get it...
And it was blocked on the internet as well.
blocked, because on the internet you're originally quite
watch it,
legally
yeah.
allowed to watch it.
Yeah, it was shit.
And then they just... Everything, because Fox obviously blocked everything once again, so they try and force people onto their paying premium.
Their dying platform.
Yes.
It's
and
got to
at
be dying,
first,
surely.
when they first bought the rights, what they forced you to do was you could get it off iTunes after the episode aired on Foxtel. Now they've gone full lockdown in that you can't watch any of it until the whole season has aired.
Yeah, that's a bit crap.
That's like
It's almost as crap as opening a can in front of a microphone intentionally.
yeah, you're right.
Why would you do that, Dean? Why did you do that?
I can't believe they're doubling down on such a shitty mechanism of monopolistic behaviour.
I think Foxtel's going to die. Everyone I know who's my age or younger does not have Foxtel. They have Netflix.
Yeah,
They have other streaming makers, but they don't have Foxtel. Foxtel
It's weird.
seems to resonate with older
I used to have
generations.
Foxtel, and it's a lot of the same content just repeated over and over again throughout the week, which made having Foxtel IQ, which is a recordable hard drive where you can record the show you want, it made that kind of ridiculous because it was being repeated so often you almost didn't need it anyway. But with the new Netflix and everything, where you're pulling the content that you want when you want it, it's such a better model that
With no commercials.
with no commercials, yeah, and it's such a better model and cheaper, I think, as well.
It is cheaper, yeah.
To get like a Netflix, I don't know what the price for Foxtel is now. But
Foxtel is minimum, I think.
$60 a month or
yeah.
something like that.
They have a new streaming package now. I think it's minimum is 10 or 15 a month. But if you want Game of Thrones, it's another 25. If you want sports, it's another whatever. It ends up being about $60.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, Netflix is just the future. Foxtel will die.
Even Stan's good. Been watching it. Stan contents is pretty good as well.
There's a lot of duplication between Stan and Netflix, though, which is a bit annoying.
Yeah,
But it's kind of nice that they're sharing and not doing a Foxtel.
This is true. So
Could be
I'm
worse.
absolutely infuriated that I can't, by any legal means, watch The Walking Dead.
It's all right. It's a garbage show.
Look,
It's
Fear
a
the Walking
principle,
Dead.
though.
Fear the Walking Dead has this thing where they're constantly doing stupid shit that even the Walking Dead series people managed to grow out of by the third season, and they're still doing it in essentially the second season of Fear the Walking Dead. But technically, it's very early days for them still. But the Walking Dead itself, yeah, I don't know. The premise just seems to be getting stale. The undead now are just a backdrop of a vague sort of threat that's hanging around. But anyone who gets caught by a zombie nowadays deserve to die, kind of thing. So it's the people that are the real threat, and it's talking about what happens after the breakdown of civilization, and the real threat is other people. So the zombies are just a prop now.
Even the other people are props. Negan and his ridiculous army that
Popped out of nowhere.
out of nowhere. And how are they feeding all those people in a confined
Well,
space?
the feudal system.
Yeah, they seem to be doing that, raiding people, taking their food.
There's
But
something
how are
they're
those
protecting.
people growing enough food to feed Negan and all of his fucking 350 soldiers? Because they're just they're raiding towns of 10 people. There's no way they can feed all those people.
This is
The logistics don't work.
You're taking a very
Also,
economical critique.
He's very clearly a deranged psychopath. Why would all these people follow him? Someone's just going to be like, bang, problem solved, I'm in charge now.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, it's interesting. That isn't explained.
He annoys me. He annoys me.
Did you
The
watch that episode then? Did you?
End of the last season was that.
Oh,
That was
right.
it for me. I was already angry with the Glenn when God, is Glenn dead? Fucking Ben.
Zombie repellent.
Yeah, and the zombies just didn't see him.
Yeah.
That shat me. And then the end of the season, that was it for me. The GoldenEye 007 blood down the screen. Bullshit with the cliffhangers. Like, no, I'm out. I'm out. I don't care. And that's the problem. I just don't care about any of the characters. If they live, if they die, their romances, their futures. None of them are going to have a happy ending. Why am I watching this show? It's bleak.
Fair enough.
It's been that way for 5 seasons.
I know, and I felt that way.
You've been
I felt
threatening for 3 seasons to drop.
yeah, I
it.
have for a while been threatening, and it took
And
me- it
I
took me a while.
predict he will pick it up again,
No.
just to watch the rest of this season again.
This the same thing happened with me in True Blood. I loved True Blood, and then with the last season, I was like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm not watching that last season. I still haven't.
I couldn't
don't
get
care.
past the first couple of episodes of that one.
Yeah, and you more power to you. You made the right call. It was a terrible. Just
the
over
end?
time, it was terrible.
I
It was-
think
it just
the
went
writing was
downhill.
on the wall when it was a teen romp vampire show. It was kind of that's where I kind of went. Well,
Well, it was
this-
HBO though, so there's like
So
good
there's-
production quality.
So basically, more breasts.
Why? I say production quality, you say breast. So obviously we have different
I'm
words for the same thing. But
This is
fine.
HBO. The difference between HBO
Oh, that's been douchebag footage.
and there was a
News
lot of it.
time.
I,
What have
well,
we got?
I was about to mock Jason for recommending The Ranch to me last time as well. But
Mock away.
The what?
Did you recommend The Ranch on Netflix to me? Someone recommended The Ranch. If I like
Not
that,
I
me.
don't
series.
even know what
I
it
don't
is.
even know what
God,
it is
I
either.
can't remember. Anyway, someone did, and I will find them and track them down.
This must be
Up until this point, that was me in those crosshairs.
That's fine. You're in the clear.
Could you
You're
tell
in
us what the
clear.
ranch is? Now I'm interested. You have to extend the douchebag.
It's
footage.
extended.
it's a comedy show. It's set in Southern America, like in Texas, probably is Texas, and it's got Kelso and Hyde from that '70s show in it. The actors, I don't know their names. Ashton Kutcher, some other guy,
And the other guy.
the other guy,
the ginger.
Anyway, look, it's just not funny. It's got a laughter track. It's just all very Southern American jokes that are just they're really stale and they don't work for me.
A little bit upper middle class bogan, perhaps.
Maybe, man. Look, it's the first Netflix produced original content I've just watched. I've been like, nope, I'm out. 1 star.
Actually, I was reading a good article where they were talking about Netflix and how it's been hitting winners so often with its television content, yet its movie content has just been continually fucking abysmal.
Yeah.
Like, well, they did sign Adam Sandler to 5 movies or something, and that was a mistake.
I
That's
mean,
almost like-
considering the quality of his last 5 movies prior to signing with Netflix, not great.
yeah, it was. Oh, you're wondering who was giving grief. Clearly, 2 different people are running one running the movie side, the
Yeah.
feature film, and one running the television.
I still think, though, I mean, they with the TV, so they take risks. They do small series, and some of it works really well, and then other bits you're like, no, why did you doing this? But they got to appeal to a wider demographic, and I guess the ranch is targeted at someone who's not me.
Clearly, someone you know though.
Yeah, I really wish I knew who it was. I was sure it was you. That bastard Jason
Does
made
it
me watch
really?
this crap.
Did it really look like something I would?
No, that's why I was so shocked. I was like, why is he doing this to just piss me off? He would have hated this.
No, but I will do that in the future.
Yeah. Hey, you should check out Honey Boo Boo. You'd really like it. Now, the first episode's a bit rough, but when you get to the second one, but you got to watch the whole first one.
You gotta hang in there for the first season, all right?
It really picks up.
Potato peccadillos. Our favourite immigration minister, Peter Potato Dutton.
Hang on, he's on my list as well, isn't he? He's also got something to do with that new shotgun that's supposedly coming through.
Oh, well, we can never have enough
Crazy.
of the potato.
Look, we can have a potato segue.
How does he cross so many spheres, though? This guy's
For a very unremarkable man.
a remarkable man
Potato
with,
goes with everything.
with no.
You
with
can
no-
mash it, you can boil it, you
That's
can
true.
make chips. There are options with potato. It's a staple of many diets.
His failure knows no boundaries.
Well, you know how the coalition stopped the boats? We don't have a
Boats stopped. Boom.
asylum seeker problem anymore. But apparently we still need to create laws to put the boot in even further. So,
Is this a potato story or more of a Malcolm Turnbull story?
No.
Because I have the same bitch about Turnbull this week.
a potato story. So asylum seekers who attempt to reach Australia by boat will never be allowed to enter the country, even if they are given genuine refugees and seek to come as tourists decades later, under legislation to be introduced by Immigration Minister Potato Dutton.
Yeah, Malcolm was talking about this as well on the TV during the week.
In favour of
that
it?
it was coming in. Yeah. The weak source Turnbull was talking about how these laws were coming in, just like it's going to go through Parliament.
To
as
stop
well.
a problem we don't have anymore, apparently.
That's it, yeah. They've said that the problem is done under the coalition. There's no longer an issue, so we're going to stick the boot in even harder.
But you know where this is?
This is my number one story for the week as
The
well.
fanciful reason that Potato Dutton's given for this is allegedly he has information to suggest that advocates for refugees are wanting to go over to Manus Island to marry refugees to bring them back on permanent visas. Does this sound like the ravings of a madman?
Well,
Next thing you know, it's going to be anchor babies. And
to be fair, that's actually pretty funny. If someone did get around the refugee problem, they go, well, it's my wife.
I know some refugee rights advocates that would probably be happy to take that route. Just to
Yeah.
get
No, I mean, it'd be good just to stick the boot into the government.
Yeah.
It's anyone from July 2013 onwards as
Yeah,
well.
they want to backdate it to
They're
when
backdating. So this is a retrospective policy, which is pretty important to mention. Also,
I've never understood retrospective laws.
No
the way that
one
it is.
does.
It's like, no,
no
really?
one does.
You had no idea that this was illegal, but you could be jailed for it.
Yeah, fake. Just not fair. Malcolm Turnbull says this is all about sending a clear message to the people smugglers.
The ones that aren't coming.
I know, right? The ones that aren't coming. Pauline Hanson said that once again the coalition is lifting policies from One Nation's playbook in an effort to shore up their
Bravo.
right flank.
Bravo.
And I was like, nah, she's not wrong. Malcolm, you've been outsmarted by Pauline Hanson publicly.
She may
That's
be,
a new low.
She may be a fairly gifted novice in this arena, pointing out the government. Hey, look, guess what they're saying? Exactly what we've been saying.
Yeah, no, it's just like mind-numbingly stupid of Malcolm to walk into Pauline Hanson's trap. The ALP, I mean, just how do you get trapped by a chip shop lady? I mean, really. I mean, if you're Potato Dutton, you could see her coming and be like, whoa, she's the enemy of my people. So the ALP said that this is a bit sus if their existing policy is working so well. Why would they really need to do this? Also, Peter Dutton should focus on finding a third country resettlement option, considering there are none right now. So it doesn't matter how much you want to stick the boot in if there's nowhere to send them.
Yeah, which country's going to take that on?
Yeah. And the other thing I'm curious about this is the legality of it
I mean,
all.
we're running out of South Sea Islands, right, aren't we?
Yeah, we're already in violation of our international obligations by even detaining them without charge on Manus Island and Nauru. And now if you're saying you're going to be kept there forever, never come to Australia, we have no third country option, so you're just going to be kept there forever, we're very clearly...
But the thing is, they
detaining
do
them.
have a third country option, which they will not avail themselves of. New Zealand has offered to take. I think
yeah,
one
but
stage...
anyone that goes to New Zealand becomes a citizen, Jason, can come live here.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
they can't accept
no, I
that.
understand why they might have said no, but to pretend like there hasn't been any third country option,
Yeah.
New Zealand has been quite forthright in saying they would take I think a number of like 1,500 refugees they were going to take.
This affects 1,300, this policy. So,
So New Zealand could take care of the whole
New
issue
Zealand could take care of the whole problem. But then they could come here and live here.
as tourists.
As New Zealand citizens. They're allowed to come here, they can get Medicare.
And claim the doll. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't quite get where this is all coming from. I mean, look, the coalition's already kicked the goals they need to kick in terms of, immigration law. This is quite a nuanced piece of legislation for a issue that doesn't really seem to be an issue. It just seems.
I'm actually reasonably certain this won't get through Parliament anyway.
Where's it coming from? This seems just like
Because while we're talking about this,
legislation.
we're not talking about real legislation and real issues. And
Well,
it's a good distraction.
Yeah, I think
Which is what the refugee issue's been for like the last 15 years. It's been a distraction from other issues.
I think there's real mean-spirited and hateful people in the coalition. This is beyond just politics.
Well, I'm also suspecting they're probably setting this up so that the Labor Party deny it, and then they could be like, "Oh, Labor's soft on refugees. Don't vote for them." So I think it's probably they're trying to weaponize this against the opposition, but it's terrible policy. But I mean, Malcolm's just drowning. I think is the problem. So he's just agreeing to whatever the right wants now in an effort to stay in power.
He wants to perpetually punish people for seeking asylum, and then you can never come. It's like, well, hold on, we didn't really commit a crime, and now you're going to perpetually.
It's not illegal to seek asylum. No. It strictly isn't.
Yeah, that's the bit that bugs me. This is not a crime. So
but they're criminalising it by having this perpetual punishment.
You know what? The good thing is, though, if Malcolm Turnbull's okay with people passing retrospective laws, then someone when they get in power 20 years from now can pass a retrospective law and put that fucker in prison.
Yeah, but
and
I mean,
if done with him,
the
and
other
George
way,
Brandis because he's a cunt.
The other way you can look at this is if we keep this up and keep on the road we're going, we'll probably chair the UNHCR in the next 10 or 15 years after Saudi Arabia gets kicked off because we'll have as abysmal a human rights record as they do.
I'm at the point where we should just withdraw. We should just take our signature off and be like, we're out. We're removing ourselves from the treaty on human treatment of refugees because we're not doing it. We're out. Let's just be honest about it. Like we were not like that piece of paper. We don't abide by that anymore.
But that they can't do that and then be accepted into polite company. I don't know why. Probably, maybe. I mean, Saudi Arabia is up there with them. So
I mean, just all you need to do is you just walk in and they go, "Oh, you're from Australia." You're like, yeah, I'm a larrikin. Right? Mistreat refugees. Hoi, hoi, hoi.
Don't take us seriously.
Throw another refugee on the barbie.
Yeah. So you're all right, You just got to play up that larrikin angle. It's depressing stuff to see.
I was astounded reading that. Just thinking, what nonsense.
I was infuriated by reading it, yeah.
Behaviour.
The other thing that Turnbull did during the week that infuriated me as well, he's going good this week. He came out and said that he's changed his stance on the rewording of Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act. Previously, Malcolm Turnbull was very opposed to any kind of change. As of this week, he's decided, you know what, removing insult and offend from the language around vilification, he's all right with that now.
You mean he's capitulated?
He's completely and utterly sold out the last shred of dignity he had on that argument. So good to see our Prime Minister just being a weak little man.
But then we can look at the actual issue that they're discussing, and 18C is interesting because it's not something I would have wanted to introduce in the first place, if you know what I mean.
I'm with you. I'd rather know someone's a prick than not know they're a prick.
But
Malcolm's helping me. He's showing me he's a prick. He's actually now at the point where I think he's just worse for Australia than Tony Abbott was. Like he annoys me that much. I know Tony would be doing all the same things.
You can't drop bombshells like that in the middle of a show like this.
I can. Malcolm Turnbull is just such a fucking disappointment. He makes me so angry.
He hasn't sampled any raw produce yet.
Yeah, well, it would be better if he did. Is that the only gripe you have it now? Is that it? He's on par with Tony Abbott, but Tony Abbott bit into a raw onion, so he's therefore a worse man than Malcolm Turnbull. But otherwise, they're even?
Could we get him to nosh a raw turnip or something like that?
Yeah, maybe.
And then we can say, yes, definitively worse than Abbott.
Well, maybe he needs to change his position on eating raw onions. That's how he pretty much does anything that Tony Abbott does. He has to actually go to the negative and then come back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Maybe he needs to come out definitively and say, I'll never eat a raw onion. And then 6 months from now, he'll be like, tasty.
Well, that will be an actual quite a lengthy time gap between backflipping. He usually backflips within a 1 month period.
Yeah, he's. I think the other thing I suspect this is tying into is, George Brandis's position's looking more and more tenuous by the day, and he was one of Malcolm's relatively strong defenders, and Malcolm's running out of strong defenders. So
apparently
maybe
Brandis has a faction, believe it or not.
People that are afraid of him, yes.
I mean, there are enough pricks in the Liberal Party that he could probably round up a bunch of them.
And they all recognise, they can smell their own and go,
that's
yeah,
right,
yeah, he's just a big
he
one
speaks
of
for
us.
us. He's the biggest prick around.
I mean, well, since you mentioned the B word, let's talk about Mr. Sheen. As
Yeah.
he's known in some circles.
What? Oh my God, I understand why too.
It's because he's powered by tiger's blood, right?
You know, he has lots of sex with hookers and loves cocaine.
Well, yeah.
No, not that Mr. Sheen.
Tiger's blood.
Winning.
So
This week, Solicitor General Justin Gleeson resigned
He did.
under very unhappy circumstances.
Disappointing.
I think he did what he thought he should do. If he can't back up the government the way they're behaving, then don't be a part of it, I guess. So.
Well, he did drop a bit of a zinger on Georgie Boy in his resignation letter, which was like the most
Did he call him Mr. Sheen?
big bitch slap, if you ask me.
Legal bitch slap.
So he said, my decision does not amount to a withdrawal of any position I have undertaken in relation to matters of controversy between us. For avoidance of doubt, I'm pretty much underlining it 3 times, I also make perfectly plain that I reject absolutely each and every attack and insinuation that has been made in recent times upon me personally or upon my office by government members of Parliament, including you, in Senate committee processes.
Yeah. I liked Darth Brandis's response when he wrote back, and he's basically said, "Yeah, look, I agree with you. You probably should resign.
Thank you for your services.
Thank you for your services." Yeah.
I agree.
I didn't agree with anything else you said, but that little bit at the end where you say, "And I resign," I agree. You should resign.
So if Brandis took any moment to celebrate his little victory there, unfortunately his parade was rained upon where...
By 200,000 lawyers.
Yes, the Australian Lawyers Alliance has called for Mr. Sheen's resignation.
Joining the ALP, who have already called for it as well.
Yes,
I should
as
add.
well
Mind you, they're the
as,
opposition, so...
The Law Council of Australia, the peak body which represents all lawyers, praised Gleeson as a person of highest integrity and skill, but made no comment on Brandis's role in the dispute.
Well, I mean, the ALA, that's 200,000 lawyers,
Yes.
and they came out and said that Brandis obviously should resign, and the head of their, the national president of the Australian Lawyers Association said that if he would not resign, that Malcolm Turnbull should sack him over his lack of integrity in the whole matter. So they took it a step further, which I thought was pretty interesting stuff. But I'm wondering if this is... I mean, because when this originally started blowing up, the fight between the Attorney General and Solicitor General, we all said, oh, look, it's not going to be that big a deal. Then most Australians don't understand enough of the legality of it. But I'm wondering if this is going to turn into Malcolm's Bronnycopters incident, where he keeps backing his man as it gets more and more toxic.
Bronnycopter.
Well, how does one man of no integrity sack another man of no integrity? Seems like a bit of an infinite loop.
Well, you just put someone in from the right faction in his place.
And also the replacement for this...
Christian
for this
Porter. He's a conservative right-wing guy from Western
So
Australia.
the government can just
who was the AG
appoint
here.
who they want. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, well, they have to be a lawyer. But obviously Christian Porter is, and he was our Attorney General, and he's relatively qualified, if not the ideal man for the role.
So now a yes man in the spot.
Yeah, you would get a right-wing conservative yes man that would be what Tony Abbott would love to see happen to that role. I can't think of anyone better suited within the coalition ranks for the role. And when I say that, that's not in any way an endorsement of Christian Porter. It's just I can't think of anyone else they're going to appoint.
If you were a right wing politician who had no sense of moralistic,
that would be the guy I'd go for.
That would be the guy you'd be.
That'd be the guy.
So basically, they've removed any sort of integrity to the sort of the offices of the Attorney General and.
I mean, Brandis never really had any though.
No, but at least you had a sort of check and balance with someone who.
Well, you had a professional lawyer who was supposedly trying to be impartial, yes, and give just an unbiased legal opinion, which is what that position's meant to be.
Yeah, which is what
and
Justice
now there's
Gleeson was doing.
an overtly partisan hack in the spot who will be giving you whatever position you want him.
Yeah, whatever you want to hear. I mean, if you want to hear that stripping dual national citizens of their Australian citizenship
enhanced interrogation techniques, yeah, that's legal. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, there's a precedent for that.
Depositing refugees offshore on islands offshore, absolutely legal.
You don't even need an island. Just leave them to drown in the ocean.
That's right.
Yeah, no. So I imagine look, I could be wrong. George might live through it, but it's not looking good for him when the whole legal institution within Australia, like that guy who's got rid of was great.
To hang on because it sounds like he can't go back to practicing law.
No, well, he retired from practicing law a long time ago, and there's a bit of controversy in that because he got his silks or became a Queen's Counsellor long after he retired from practicing law when he cut
Oh,
some
really?
sort of deal. Yes, which has pissed off a lot of the Queensland legal fraternity that sort of cheated.
Because he didn't do his time.
Well,
fair enough.
he's a sneaky politician.
Mm.
Yeah, don't like the guy. Don't like the guy.
But I
Very
sort-
sad to see Gleeson go.
I don't see Brandis moving on his own accord on this. So, and with Turnbull seemingly having no backbone, I can't see how this issue is going to be forced.
You know who else has been disappointing this week in coalition ranks? It's been a big week for disappointment in the government. Scott Morrison. I ranted about this on our Facebook page because he's decided that we have a housing crisis finally.
That's right. Yes.
He's finally admitted there's a housing crisis within Australia, but there's nothing within his power. The federal government's not doing anything about it. It's a state issue and it's a supply issue. So the state governments need to release more land further out from the cities with no assistance from the federal government, mind you, for providing services like roads or electricity or water or schools or hospitals or public transport. None of that's going to get any support, but we're going to release some land and poor people can go and live fucking way out that way and they'll be fine.
Because they want to say, the government and Scott Morrison in particular want to say, look, it's a complicated issue, but the only problem is supply.
Yeah.
It's not. It has nothing to do with our tax laws.
There's no
or
bubble.
There's no
no
nothing
bubble.
demand
Yeah.
by investors.
There's no ridiculous demand.
Absolutely
We're
no
not
complexity.
living in a modern day feudal society where there are serfs and lords. We're not. That's not what we're living in. Don't worry about that.
Just keep supplying land until there's no more to give.
Yeah. I fucking hate that guy as well.
It's simple market economics.
I didn't think it was possible for me to hate so many people all at once in 1 week.
in
But
one
they
party.
Well, normally though, I mean, you know who had a good week this week? Christopher Pine. Didn't hear a fucking thing about it. He had a great week by staying off the radar. Everyone else in the coalition, shitty week.
I got a feeling that probably works for a lot. Like Julie Bishop stays well off the radar.
Well, she didn't though.
She's
She was
also
in
the most
She was in
competent
the
person in
press taking on Donald Trump.
Oh, doing something competent and realistic. Absolutely.
Well, suggesting that there might be issues with the American foreign policy under Trump.
Yeah.
I might have issues with American foreign policy under Hillary, to be fair.
Almost certainly will.
Yeah, trying to escalate war in Syria.
But I think the only thing in Trump's favour is that we don't actually know what his policy would be.
I don't think Trump knows what his policy is going to be.
No, I don't think he
It's
does.
a roll of the dice every time someone asks
He's just
him
going to
a
make an amazing deal when it needs
question.
to
I
happen.
can't wait to see how many people from the White House he fires. He's just going to call people in, you're fired.
So, yeah. Well, at least she was doing one thing in the right direction.
I'd like to think he's going to run a new season of The Apprentice where he appoints the VP via that show. The Vice Apprentice.
You know who did have a good week? Even if it was all like a minute victory.
No.
New segment, Short and Zingers.
Short and Zingers.
Short and Zingers.
He needs a theme song.
At the Queensland Labor Conference,
You can beatbox it.
the bill dropped the zinger, labelling Prime Minister Turnbull morally bankrupt and reliant on an insolvent senator. I thought that was quite good,
Haven't we been
actually.
talking about this all since we started
Seems to be the running theory, running
the
theme, yeah.
So Big Bill was criticised.
Big Bill.
See, it's Big Bill now, not Nowhere Man, as I used to refer to
Yeah,
him.
true.
He's actually, he's got some chops lately.
Mm.
Well, over the last.
I liked
6
it when you
months.
called him Dollar Bill.
Dollar bill, y'all.
Big Bill
Dollar
criticised the government's support for Family First Bob Day continuing in the Senate, despite the founder of the collapsed Home Australia group saying his position was untenable while he was preoccupied with helping creditors. So I think it was last week he announced that he had to
He was gonna-
leave the
he was gonna
Senate
stand down.
because basically he was going to be bankrupt, and you can't be a senator if you're bankrupt.
He also had to sort out some massive family
Yes.
trust issues, not as in trust fund, not as in people not trusting him,
Where
although
he
they
had
may
come
not.
with the liquidators, so he had to
Yeah.
assist them. So, but he changed step, claiming that there might be a white knight saviour coming in to buy out the group, which possibly could allow him to continue on, which apparently was a load of nonsense.
Is it George Brandis?
No. And then amazingly,
Is it Malcolm Turnbull because he's got 200 million?
he's going to continue on for the first week of Parliament to help the coalition out with some policies they want to get through.
Of course.
What do you do?
Because he was claiming that the Family First Party couldn't get another candidate to take his place, which apparently is not the case at all.
Well, he's a senator, right? Isn't he? So yeah, that place can be filled.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be named. Yeah.
Nope, Family First can just appoint someone.
Interesting.
But
So,
he's not going to do that. Clearly, being bankrupt and having to give up your job is something you don't actually want to have to give up when you actually.
It's not a great combination of things, is it? It's like,
all right,
I've got not enough money to pay my bills, and I have to quit.
I have to quit.
Shit.
So you can imagine how much the coalition would be squealing if this was happening in reverse.
Because what is that? But him losing out. What does that change to the? How does that change the balance in the Senate?
It doesn't, because he would just be replaced by another Family First senator who would.
Wouldn't
side with
Yeah,
right.
they
right.
couldn't necessarily guarantee that Family First senator would honour any agreements that
The original.
If it was a particularly conservative perspective on the world, you can pretty much guarantee they would. I mean, they're one of the more Christian parties in Australia.
Yeah, you might even get someone even worse in there.
You might.
Could be. I don't know. Malcolm seemed pretty keen to keep him on.
Didn't Barnaby Joyce have a shitty week as well?
He did. That's right. So it finally came out, a letter he'd been trying to keep under wraps about why the head of...
Dreyfus.
Yes.
Mm.
No, was it Dreyfus? No, not Dreyfus. It was
No.
Grimes. Somebody Grimes. The head
Rick Grimes.
Grimes. I haven't prepared for this one.
Walking Dead, Jason. Walking Dead.
I know.
Who
Sorry.
did Barnaby... What was his old portfolio before he became...
He was the Minister for Rap Music.
So anyway, he fired the guy that was running that portfolio.
Yeah, I think it was agriculture.
Yes, agriculture. I forget the
It wasn't rap
fellow's
music.
name.
I'm sure it was Dreyfus, but I could be wrong. It might be. It doesn't matter.
But that guy sent a letter saying that he wasn't going to resign and that it would be more... Once again, he was calling into question Barnaby's
Integrity, yeah.
over...
He basically called him out for being a useless shit and then said, but I'm not going to resign.
Well, and the other thing was that Barnaby Joyce himself or his office had requested Hansard transcripts to be changed. Which he didn't feel
Yes,
was
that's true. They
appropriate.
tried to doctor the facts to make it look like everything was all right. And it's come out that it's not all right. And so, shitty week for Barnaby Joyce too.
Good.
Yeah.
Well done.
Although, once again, I don't think much is really going to happen.
Well, no, it's interesting to see what our sometimes stand-in Prime Minister is willing to do.
Yeah, pretty much fire a career public servant who's very much had a great record and was quite a performer, who actually got parachuted into the Department of Agriculture to allegedly babysit Barnaby.
Yeah.
And got severely burnt from giving that shit job.
Who would have thought that a babysit Barnaby Joyce role would turn out so badly?
Basically, he lost his job. It's outrageous that just because some idiot minister gets himself in a pickle, you have to take the fall for him. Because you know what the reason is? Under Commonwealth law, basically, if the minister loses confidence in I think it's the secretary, it's what they call that top position in the portfolio, that's enough grounds for firing them.
Wow, no work choices for them.
Yep.
See, even under work choices, that have more redress than that.
So yeah,
it's terrible.
been a stellar week for the coalition. Yeah. Stellar.
And there's just one
Hence
more.
the need to change the narrative a little, I guess.
One more little hitch in this week or actually over the last 2 weeks, was the potential redrawing of the gun control laws.
We talked about this last week, I think, briefly.
Did you?
Well, it may or may not have made it to air.
We talked about it on one of the shows.
Did you? Well, it wasn't. Yeah, you know.
It's hard to know what actually made it into the final show.
Right. So reports emerged that Turnbull is considering relaxing gun control laws. So the existing gun control laws that came in with the Howard government.
It's not so much relaxing gun control.
Actually, and when I looked into it, it wasn't so much. It's about reclassifying one specific weapon.
Because lever action shotguns were always
Class A.
Class A because their potential for criminality is so low.
Well, so low. However, then I mean you've got to look at what the spirit of the law. So what's come up is that you've got lever action shotguns. We usually had lower capacity magazines, and now one being imported is the Adler shotgun, which has a higher capacity
We
magazine.
have the
Seven,
five
and
shell
10.
cartridges.
5 shot, yeah.
Adler's already. They're trying to look at the sevens. Yep.
Well, so they want to reclassify those weapons, which apparently will have to be done at the state level. So you can't actually.
Here's the thing: there's nothing stopping that 7 shell cartridge Adler being imported, other than the import ban. At the moment, they've
It's
just
just
banned
a
the
temporary
import
ban, yeah.
anything with more than 5 shells.
They introduced a temporary ban in 2015, and they
So
extended it in
the weapon would
2016.
still be classified as a Class A,
Yeah.
irrespective of if that ban wasn't in place. But they're thinking maybe that's not a good idea because it holds.
Maybe it needs to be reclassified.
Mind you, and I'm also of the understanding that you can legally modify those 5 shell cartridge shotguns to hold up to 11 without a problem, and that's legal. But the 7s could then be modified further again. But it's interesting, isn't it?
It is. And I suppose it goes to the sense of what they were trying to stop with these laws, which was, high capacity rapid firing weapons. So a lever action shotgun. I mean, some might say that its potential for criminality is low.
Well,
I'm not sure why it's
statistically
that much
it is. It says it is.
because pump action shotguns were available back then.
We did talk about this last week, whether we mentioned or not. So
What are you going to have? You're going to have a pump or a lever?
So
I think I'll go with the pump.
The most common used firearm for gun crimes in Australia are pistols. Most common classification, pistols. Second to that, police occasionally come across sawn-off pump-action shotguns. Now, the thing about lever-action shotguns, which means the criminality potential is low, is that you can't saw off the barrel because the cartridge sits immediately underneath it. So you saw that off, and all of a sudden you can't hold ammunition. So it's very hard to make it suitable for use in a hold-up. Doesn't mean someone won't try. Does not mean someone won't try. But it is less likely to be used in a heist.
Okay, so if it comes down anyway, they were talking about one of the reasons why this was being reintroduced and why the relaxation was coming through is because your friend David Leonhelm is possibly the one they're trying to garner some influence with.
And we talked about this on the show. I found it's quite a weird thing for Lionhelm to be even involved with. Like, I understand he's against nanny-state laws, and this is one that's on the books he could maybe get out of play.
Did he agitate
easily.
for this at all? I mean, is this just something out of the blue they're trying to lure him in?
Remember when they wanted to strip people's citizenship from them if you were dual nation citizenship? Yep. They talked him into voting for that on the condition that they would put a sunset clause on the Adler shotgun import ban and allow the guns to be imported in the country.
He's willing to sell out people's human rights.
He voted for that the immigration legislation on the understanding, and they gave it to him in writing from Peter Dutton's office, that was the agreement they'd made. He voted for the government, who then backtracked on their agreement, and then later have come out and told him, oh, we actually didn't mean that ever. We just figured you'd go away.
So it's interesting. Well, I'll pick you up on that one, Jason, about his definition of tyrannical government depending on the situation. So tyrannical for when it denies you guns, but when they're going to deny you
That's what I was just about to say.
That's okay.
He's quite
happy.
happy.
My libertarian goes to the side on that one.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, it's an odd.
It's curious where he draws the line. No, it's really fucking important that they get those lever action shotguns. It's super important. However, those poor people offshore that get stuck in detention centres,
or even here.
Well,
you spray painted a Commonwealth building. Out you go. Terrorist action.
Wow, yeah. To be fair, it mostly is if you're fighting in a foreign war zone. But what do you do? I mean, I'm on the page where I don't think we should necessarily ship our garbage off overseas. Like, it's a bit wrong to be, well, they're fighting, well, they're now someone else's problem. But at the same time, what are you going to do when they come back home?
What are you talking about?
So say we had some people who were dual citizens fighting for ISIS. They're dead now. They died in bombing raids. But pretend they didn't die in bombing raids. And what would you do when they tried to come home?
We have a legal system in which they can be.
Yeah, what are you going to charge them with?
It's if they've done something illegal, then they can.
That's it. But what have they done? That's, I mean, obviously potentially mass murder.
Maybe they haven't actually done anything illegal. If they've murdered people overseas, then they can be charged on that, right?
Well, this comes into future criming people. They've gone over there, committed no. If they've gone overseas, done whatever they've done.
Well, technically they've committed a crime by going to somewhere like Syria where there is a ban.
But why should that be
Australian
illegal?
Travel to it? Well, because it currently is. I want to think they've definitely committed one crime they can be charged with, which is going to the area controlled by ISIS, because you're not allowed to do that right now. That's the only crime I think you could charge them with, which probably means they wouldn't serve prison time unless you could prove that they actually murdered people.
That's fine, yeah. I mean, if they want to convict them of murder or something more serious, then they need to present evidence and do that.
They just can't go, because you went there, you might commit a crime
it's
here.
guilt by association.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you to a point. But at the same time, if they then came home and you couldn't stick them with anything, and then something bad happened...
But why should we be seeking to stick them with something if they haven't necessarily done anything? If they've done something, charge them with that crime. And don't make up something that just simply being in this vicinity means that you're guilty.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I'm mostly on the page. But I can understand why you could talk someone like David Lionhelm into...
Oh, no, I can understand why there's a whole section of people, some in my family would immediately want to class someone as guilty of something just for being in Syria. And to be fair,
if someone was like, I don't want them living here, I'd be like, you know what, I understand where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. I potentially don't want them living here either. But
yeah. Well, the thing is, but just where they've been to and come back from, I don't think is anything we should be judging someone necessarily on.
Well, and look, it's an interesting, I know, it's an interesting piece of the law, and it's very interesting, and this is the bit that they managed to negotiate with him on over the firearms.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate. As I said, it seems like he's willing to sell out real people's human rights for the right for someone to actually own a high-capacity shotgun.
But I mean, at the same time, you've got to remember that libertarians generally have a fairly strong national there's a strong undercurrent of nationalism within them.
They want
And
freedom
this
for
is-
everyone,
And this is someone
as
going
long as
to
they're our
fight
people.
for a foreign nation, for a foreign power, maybe not even a nation, for a foreign group. They're not necessarily a part of our nation.
But you got to pull you up on that because they're not even. This law wasn't even talking about them going to fight for someone else. It was just going to the area.
Yes.
It was purely saying
You
we're
may
going
have
to
trained with a group. Or
may have, may not have. We don't know. You've just been in that vicinity. Well, that's guilt by association. There's with no evidence. I mean, you can wipe off whole sections of the community that way. People have families in those areas, and they might want to go back and see family and stuff like that. I think it's a silly law.
I understand that. I do understand that. But if there's a travel ban in place and you know that you're risking jail time at a minimum for going
I
there,
don't even know what do these travel bans entail. They literally there's a law that says you
literally
cannot.
you cannot go to
travel
area
to that
controlled by
ban
ISIS.
you going from anywhere. Once again,
Well,
it's a
that's what I'm interested about the legality of that situation. but
generally
fine,
speaking,
charge them with that. That's a law you can charge.
The only
them.
reason you would want to go to the area currently controlled by ISIS, there are two reasons. One, you think you're a badass for playing Call of Duty and you're going to go kill some ISIS terrorists. Or two, ideologically, you see what they're doing. You're like, hey, that sounds like a pretty good place to live.
I can also think of
Now,
this.
both of those kinds of people are not great elements in society.
That's two reasons to go there. There's a lot of people living in that area, and a lot of people who might have family in that. Like, there's other reasons to go to those areas. You know what I mean? There's people living there
Yeah, I know that.
that aren't ISIS, that aren't rebels of any kind, and those people have family, and there's interactions, there's reasons. It's just a horrible sort of generalizing law that.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Dean. From a pragmatic point of view, yes, there's no real motivators for the average person to go to Mosul.
Yeah.
When it was under ISIS control for any other reason, for ideological reasons, and should those people go there? But you'd figure most of them who come back would be ones that go, yeah, that ISIS thing isn't as great as I thought it was over the internet. I'm coming back and going to the real world. They're obviously, although most people fear that they're going to come back and stir trouble.
I mean, that's yeah, and this is where although I don't necessarily agree with the laws, I would not necessarily fight them with any great gusto either. Like, I'm not happy to see those people denied the ability to return home. I'm not unhappy either. If they denied, it's like, well,
because the other thing is
bring them home and just take care of them
how
the way
big is the real issue? It's the propaganda of the war of terrorism.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much like, are they creating an issue that isn't really there? Like,
How big is the issue in reality?
And how hard is it to track those people and find out what they have been up to, rather than just blanketing with one charge?
oh, I thought you were going to blanket drone strike and just kill all the civilians in the area.
That's a step. That if we had drones, that's probably what we would be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what America has done with its
Has done,
civilians
yeah,
that have been
yeah.
in problems overseas and just
No,
drone strikes them.
It's an interesting piece of the law, and it's interesting how big the problem is. Obviously, and this is why Justin Gleeson ended up resigning, because he disagreed with the current government's interpretation of those exact laws.
I'm interested to know what levels, like how legal if the Australian government says you have a ban on this country going to this country, how enforceable that law is. Like, I don't know. I've never heard of that. I thought there was a travel advisor. They say we suggest you don't go there.
There is. These ones you can't. So if you leave the country, our country, and you try and go somewhere, generally you need a visa, and you're not going to be able to get one of those for the area you're trying to get to, and you're supposed to declare your destination. So you would have to lie about the visa documentation you get, slip through customs in a third country, and then run the border. Now, those are all individually crimes as well, but not necessarily crimes in Australia.
But there's an initial crime of being denied free passage.
Yeah.
Well, are you guaranteed free passage?
Not necessarily to. I don't think Australia.
Because that technically is a privilege. If you commit crimes here, you can't.
Oh,
go to
that's
America.
not a very libertarian outlook.
no,
Actually,
I-
Well, no,
libertarian
but like-
outlook is that free passage is complete. It should be. It's right.
It is
Well,
within the
right-
country you're in, but if you
Yeah.
break the law here, you cannot go to America. And people like
Yeah, well, I understand that, but when I say freedom of passage to leave our shores and go wherever you want, you might be denied on that other end of the border, but Australia shouldn't be interfering with your movements.
yeah, and we generally don't.
If you're a civil law-abiding person, there's no reason why you should be denied to go anywhere you want, apart from the other destination saying we don't want your type here,
You can't
which
do
is
anything about
very
that.
possible.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting anyway. So the reason this Adler thing came to the press is because Lionhelm publicly showed the documentation he had from Potato Dutton and Michael Keenan that said, "Hey, we'll give you the vote." So when they wanted to vote for something else, he's like, "No." because you guys are a pack of liars.
And who's that motoring enthusiast guy who also learned that lesson?
Ricky Muir was gone.
Muir.
Yeah.
Has he gone altogether?
They didn't get any more seats, I don't think.
Yeah, when they rejigged the way the
Senate votes were counted.
yeah, he was never going to get over the line.
Oddly enough, I'm disappointed to see him go.
It would have been nice to have him continuing. If
He was
continued
working
on.
really hard. I'm surprised he didn't get enough votes just to...
Motoring Enthusiast Party's not going to draw enough of a cross-section of society. Doesn't matter how hard he works.
Yeah, and he only got in there by a fluke.
Preferences,
So he worked really hard while he was in there. He seemed to be learning his trade as a politician, really. It's a shame.
He may yet come back.
As in Pauline Hanson's party.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, some people like Andrew Wilkie. He was, he turned his moment in the sun into a political career pretty well. He's an independent, but that worked out all right for him. I've got one more piece of news to talk about, and this one's international news, which Jason and I are actually talking about before the show, about how funny it is. More accurately, how funny the timing is. So the FBI director, James Conroy. Okay, James. Wow.
Comey.
James Comey. Can't remember handwriting. Informed the US Congress on Friday that they were resuming their investigation into Secretary Clinton's use of a private email system after coming across additional emails that are potentially pertinent, which I assume they got from WikiLeaks. Can't guarantee that's where they came from, but I assume.
I remember some American political commentators talking about the FBI investigation, and they said, look, they're going to do their investigation. They're either going to finish it well before the election or finish it well after, but it's going to be not be an issue kind of thing. They're going to try and make sure it's not a political issue. And so they supposedly completed their findings beforehand, and they completed. I mean, you got to remember the way he announced his findings of the initial investigation, because he did leave things up in the air, and he definitely made it sound like Clinton was guilty of something. They just weren't going to do anything about it.
Or they also couldn't necessarily prove how. Like they were like her behavior was inappropriate. If anyone else did this in the future, we can't guarantee they wouldn't be charged. But right now, we can't charge it.
And then the matter seemed to be at rest, and that's it. And I remember someone saying, they never bring this up because it would be just too political to bring it up.
2 weeks out from election. Less than. 7 days.
And that's what's happened. And he's deliberately, it's almost like
rogue, hasn't he?
He's almost trolling them because he won't tell them what he's got.
Yeah.
He only tells them that he's got something and they're looking into it. And so, it's the most, it seems like the most absurd thing to do.
Well, the Justice Department also advised the FBI not to do it now. Do not send that letter. And then they went and did it anyway.
Yeah, well, Justice Department is a political department in some ways, though, because its appointments, the head of the Justice Department is a political appointee. So is Comey to some, but
to some extent,
Comey's a Republican. I remember people complaining, "Why are you putting a Republican?" Because this was Obama's appointment. They said, "Why did you put a Republican in charge of the FBI, an overt Republican like this?" And he said, "It was obviously to appease them, make sure they had someone who could keep them happy, keep the right happy."
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, this was something that the Democrats knew about during the primaries, that this might be an issue, that there is a danger with selecting Hillary Clinton as your candidate because this could come up. The Republicans did not know that about Donald Trump. Pussygate, no one knew about that because he would not let people investigate his past. He was like, don't worry about it. My past is terrific. It's fantastic. Everybody loved it. And then it came up, blew up in his face, and now this is coming up, blowing up in Hillary's face a little bit. She gave a quote during the week saying it was pretty strange to put something like that out there without with such little information right before an election. And then she was like, actually, it's not strange, it's unprecedented and deeply troubling because voters deserve to get the full and complete facts. Yeah. And then I was forced to think to myself, bitch, why didn't you just release all your fucking emails in the first place? Then they would have had the facts and this wouldn't have been an issue.
They have been talking about an October surprise. I mean, Julian Assange was threatening the October surprise for some time. I don't know if he was referring to this specifically, but it seems like
Maybe he was referring to losing his email access. It's an October surprise. I can't write on the internet anymore.
Oh dear, I can't get my porn.
Well,
can't get my porn.
What else are you going to do in the Ecuadorian embassy?
Spent a lot of time in there. You spent a lot of time, and that must have been crippling to have your internet. Could you imagine that? That's your only
access to the world.
To
gone.
the outside world, and it's cut off.
No more lolcats.
Yeah, poor bastard's going to be drawing his own memes.
I mean, I can't wait to see what the fallout from this is because it's still pretty early in this, but
But this was Friday in the US. So
if they're going to if they keep pushing this angle, we've yet to see what happens in the next sort of news cycle.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think the point is, though, I don't like saying this, but if she legitimately has done something inappropriate that should involve
Look, the
her
thing
not
with
being a candidate for president or potentially answering in a court of law,
the thing
should
with
anyway.
with the original investigation, they said they didn't find her guilty of no, like what she did was wrong and even illegal, but they could not say that they know what they did was knowingly implemented this. But the thing
now
is,
it's clear that they've
implementing an email server, you don't unknowingly implement an email server. You knowingly do it, and there's one major reason for it, so you can control the information that's on there. I mean, that's why they did it.
True, but then when they released the emails and all of the emails to the FBI, they then selected some that have gone, actually, they probably can't see those because that'll make me guilty.
Which is what the whole reason of having your own server, so you can do that partition.
And now it's like, well, look, if they find you guilty, I have absolutely no problem with Hillary being not able to run, answering before a jury. Like I would hate to see a President Trump. I would hate to see, especially this way. Yeah. But if this is what it is, if she knowingly lied to the police more than once, well, you've got to answer for that.
And the fact that all these emails have suddenly been picked up by the Russians, maybe. I mean, they keep throwing that out there as a scare tactic.
I think that's code for we have no idea.
Anytime someone, apparently there's some very realistic information or suggestions that it is the Russians that did it. It's quite possible.
You've heard of something called the onion ring, right? Where you can just route traffic around and around, and it's really hard for them to check because they have to subpoena every server one by one to where it came from. All you need is an endpoint in Russia. I'm guessing you can compromise the system in Russia pretty easily, and then you route your traffic through there, bang, hack America.
It's fucking regardless anyway, because it doesn't.
Donald Trump said it could be some fat man on a bed in his room.
All they're doing is every time someone says, "Hey, check out the content of these emails," they go, "Look, we don't look at content that comes from the Kremlin." And they just dismiss it as if by saying whatever potential source it was completely invalidates what's actually in there. They haven't been denying that they're actually accurate. They're all the right.
Even during the debate, she brought that up. Like, it came up with, we don't trust things. I was like, no, you should answer about the content here.
Yeah. No matter how it got to you, we need to answer on the content. And some of that content was really fucking dubious. So
we also took this the other week when you went here, where Putin had come out and said, why the fuck would we do that? Basically, I'm paraphrasing here. If we stole government documentation from America, why would we publish it? Why would we? What am I, an idiot? I used to work for the KGB. I'm not going to publish. If I'm hacking your systems, you're not going to know about it. I'm just going to keep taking data.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it just kind of proves the fact that all these emails did get taken from her server and all turned up at various points.
Yeah.
Kind of proves why you shouldn't have had a private server as well. So, I mean...
Yeah, it's not secure.
It's not secure.
Not as secure as you think it is.
And they were arguing, oddly enough, some of these emails might have been more secure on a Google-based platform than in a private server.
I mean, if this actually does blow up in the most massive
sensational way,
how crazy it would be if Trump gets in to office?
All right, imagine they'll still have an election. Hillary may yet win and then get impeached and then have another election.
Right. Okay. So there's no way she's going to back out at this stage. Or
I think she'll fight it out and then until the election date. She could lose the election based on people not trusting her, or she could win and then get impeached.
That's crazy. Could they not possibly parachute Bernie Sanders in?
Well, no. If she got excluded now,
well, he's not on the ticket, so they can't vote for him.
I thought he left the Democratic Party as well. He was like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
No, he's still campaigning for her. He's campaigning for her.
No, that's Larry David dressed up.
That would be.
I mean, do you have to be a member of the Democratic Party to be their candidate?
To join the party to be there. Yeah.
I didn't think.
Actually, I'm pretty sure if she gets impeached, the vice president would take over anyway.
That's true.
And he caucused with the Democrats for 20 years, so he basically voted with them normally, except on his own recognizance when he needed to and stuff. Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be Bernie Sanders. It'd be they were talking about it before. If there was any reason to parachute anyone in, it'd be Joe Biden. They'd just drop him in, and because he's immensely popular and probably
Uncle Joe too. Bueno.
Yeah, he's not scared to get into fisticuffs with Trump either.
Yeah.
Did you see that in the news during the week about Joe Biden said he wouldn't mind throwing down as in a la high school days, going behind the toilets,
the bleachers,
duking it out.
I would like to see that. I would like to see that. Obviously, you watched all the debates. I only watched 1 and 3. I didn't watch
I've
the second
seen like 5-minute segments of all of
because
them.
Hillary just kills like in every debate. Hillary kills him. Like it
And she
kills
went
him.
after him this time, which
Yeah,
she
and
hasn't done in the
that third
past.
debate, which I hadn't seen all of the last time, but I've now seen all of it. She just destroyed him. She went out, and it was really good to watch. However, it could be a Pyrrhic victory for her. She might beat Trump only to, wind up impeached. I mean, if he does win, he's going to try and send her to prison anyway. I've got no
Yes.
idea how he's going to implement that or any of his other policies. But
Well,
you
it
know,
seems like the head of the FBI is going to do it for him.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want Trump in there, but God, it's hard to get upset about Hillary Clinton having any more issues. I quite like
It
seeing
seems like such a stupid thing to go down for a private email server. I mean, what stupidity!
And this is when you listen to pundits talk about it, this is the thing they have with the Clintons: is all these unforced errors they seem to make, where they're just constantly like, "Oh, why did you do that?" Like
there was precedents for having private email servers. Colin Powell did it?
No. He had his personal email account. It wasn't on a separate server. He had a Hotmail or a Gmail account. So that was wrong. They said, that's terrible. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be using government email, which is on a government server. He didn't have his own server because everyone tries to throw up that bit of misinformation. Yeah. And they're two very different things. He could not hide the content of his emails like the way she was trying to hide the content of her email. Because they could subpoena his third-party account and just get it included.
So you'd want to hide your allegiance with the reverse vampires of the Saudi regime.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Colin Powell, actually. He was a man of integrity that
He was.
really got thrown under the bus in the worst way
Well, as
possible.
Malcolm Turnbull has shown, there's no place for integrity in politics.
No, there's not.
He had to go.
Poor Colin.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's only so as sorry as you might feel for him, there's only so much we should allow him. He quite deliberately and possibly even knew some of what he was doing when he was presenting cases.
I mean,
to
they
the UN
doctored
and
the intelligence and then gave it to him to present to the UN because everyone would trust him.
And then he left politics, realising the gravity of what he
Yeah.
had
And
done.
he was like, "You fuckers lied. I'm out.
Yeah,
Mic drop."
I was your puppet. Yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And seemingly had the integrity to leave politics after that.
Yeah.
Well done, Colin.
Well, maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll run as an independent. You know what I would like to see in the American system is actually, and this is by no means that I respect the Libertarian candidate whose name I can't remember, Jill Stein. Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. Yeah, they're the two I was trying to remember. Gary Johnson. I would like to see them have a debate where those four candidates get to talk. It would be more interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think Gary Johnson would have much to contribute to the debate. Maybe George Stein would be an interesting...
It would just be interesting in general to present the options.
She's been trying to get into debates. I mean, she's been arrested getting into debates, trying to get into debates, because they just will not allow, like, obviously the mainstream media does not want to muddy the waters with anything.
Well, it's not the mainstream media, it's the Democratic and the Republican parties don't want any other interlopers into their debates where it's all perfectly structured. They they have had
no
questions on climate change. Can't have that.
They have had alternative debates in the alternative media where they'll have Jill Stein and the Libertarian and blah, and they just do their own kind of. In fact, they'll run them live commentary with the actual debates going on. I've seen some of those on Democracy Now! And stuff like that. So they try as hard as they can to include them, but yeah.
Oh, guys, I think that's a wrap.
Yep.
I've got one more.
One more, sorry.
Well, it's not really a story so much as I was. I like watching Chelsea Handler on Netflix, and she had Jesse Ventura on to talk about the independent side of politics because people were criticising the show for being massively pro-Hillary. So she had an interview with Jesse Ventura on, and he ran as an independent, and he got elected as a joke. But he made some really interesting points. He was talking about the need to have more transparency in politics and why he was voting Gary Johnson. But also, he also made really interesting points that Americans have the right. Like, if you don't like the Republican candidate or the Democrat candidate, and people are saying voting Gary Johnson is throwing your vote away, or Jill Stein throwing your vote away, it is not throwing your vote away. You need to send a message and represent that, hey, neither of those candidates are resonating with me, and the only way you can do that is by voting for another candidate whose message does resonate with you. And it was really interesting to see someone talking about the importance for independence in politics.
Yeah.
And also, it's Jesse Ventura, who, in my mind, is like he was in... like.
He was the governor.
He was a professional wrestler, wasn't he?
He was originally, yeah.
So it's really...
It's
just really interesting to watch.
A couple of careers ago, he was a...
And now, as a politician, he made really interesting points. And the other thing about him I found really interesting is he was just very blunt and honest. Like, not Hillary, not Trump. Like, both of them very clearly are just spinning you lies that you want to hear.
Yeah. But I think... I think the good thing about that has been turned up by Hillary is that it's been discovered that she's clearly movable on certain issues.
Yeah. She has a
Like-
public and a private opinion on those.
Yeah, but she has changed. Like even the WikiLeaks emails have shown that she has changed opinions with the prevailing public opinion. To
Well, more the pressure that's been brought to bear by
But
the Bernie
don't-
Sanders campaign.
Yeah,
Don't you
yeah.
want your politician to represent the electorate, i.e., the public opinion?
Yeah, and so if she's moving, this is one reason I'm saying is actually in Hillary's favour is that she will move with public opinion to a certain
I'm sorry.
extent.
I'm sorry. Do you mean crooked Hillary?
Yeah, I mean,
One thing in crooked Hillary's favour.
Yeah.
Hillary.
Hillary.
It's interesting you brought up that though about your vote's not wasted when you do vote for independent candidates. I mean that is almost like a chicken and an egg type situation, and it depends on where you sit in the socio-economic environment. So when you're in a position of privilege, you can do a vote of folly if you wish that.
Yeah.
When the effects of the at the end of the day.
So you're framing it by saying a vote of folly as well. Like you very clearly have the agenda.
But the
it is a
thing
bit
is-
unfair, but look, the reality is one of two parties is going to win. And
Yeah, as long as people like you perpetuate the message that a third party candidate will
I
never get in,
appreciate
that is
but
the case.
If you're
Yeah,
at the lowest rung of society and going to be directly impacted,
So if Trump
severely
gets
by-
in and you're Mexican, there's a real fucking price you're going to pay probably. Whereas, the average white person can vote Hillary or Trump and it probably won't affect them terribly much. You know
or
what
they
I
can
mean?
vote for a third party candidate
Or a
and with
third party candidate.
and have a clear conscience that
Yeah.
I voted with my conscience, yet they're not impacted by the reality of only one of two candidates are going to get in, and one of those candidates are going to severely impact a certain segment of society.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee Hillary's going to be any better
No,
for lower socioeconomic people than the Donald would be. There's no guarantee she's going to have control of the Congress or the Senate.
No, but there's you
Like,
can
there's
make a
just
rational choice over which one might be.
No, I understand that, but I mean, you look at. I mean, Obama had a hostile Senate
Yeah.
and a hostile Congress. He didn't achieve as much as he would like to. Hillary's likely going to face the same thing,
Absolutely. But you can.
and
it's
she's not even trying to say she's a change you can
It's,
believe in.
but what you got to look at with American politicians, it's not necessarily the legislation the individual president might be trying to push through. It's the appointments that he makes.
yes.
To which cabinet ministries and things like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
Well, in the Supreme Court,
Supreme Court.
most
Supreme
importantly,
Court as well. So who you appoint to run those areas is
dictates decades of.
And we may not
law.
like who Hillary's going to appoint for many of these things, but I'm almost certain we're going to like Trump's even less.
Well, you never know.
You never know. There's that.
He could appoint
There's
Donald
that
Trump
wild
Jr.
card. There's that wild card bit. Yeah.
He's fantastic.
It is frustrating though that you're bound by this situation where the reality is only one or two parties are going to win, but yet you want to send a message to say we don't like those two choices.
Well, I mean, look
But
at
the choice.
Look at Australian politics as well. Even though one of two parties is going to win, look at how many, like 25% of all votes these days are going to minor parties.
Mm.
Very soon, it'll be a case if it's not only one or two parties win, it'll be like a coalition of multiple parties is required to secure a victory. As we're seeing now with so many national party policies essentially becoming coalition playbook messages, and even One Nation stuff, they're reaching out to them. Like, I'm not trying to say it's a good system, and that we
Well,
should
we're
be
very
embracing
lucky
the
that
national party and the coalition. And
There
the-
seems to be an avenue for independent parties to play their part in
Yeah.
politics.
But I mean, as the movement grows, the Green movement or even One Nation, depending on your side of the political spectrum, you will gain voters if your position is sensible. You know, like if you can show that as a third party we can achieve this, we can do these outcomes, people will continue to vote for you. The Greens vote keeps growing.
Yeah.
The
But
One
it's not
Nation
an-
vote has been, growing in cycles, but if they can actually deliver for their constituents, then why not?
You mean if they're sensible?
If it resonates with the
I
people
don't
that
think
vote for 'em.
sensibility
Yeah,
necessarily
no,
can do
it doesn't matter what you and I think, because we're never going to vote for
No, but there's a popular sentiment which has nothing to do with rationality or sentiment. Like
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
like it's definitely whose interest they can appeal to in certain
Yeah.
sections and stuff like that. Whether they're sensible policies or not doesn't may not even matter.
Who knows? I mean, their policies are being implemented by the coalition. They were in the past as well.
Yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily call them sensible.
Nor would I. But again, we are not their target demographic.
I understand.
Anyway, I think that's what we've got time for.
I think so. And that's a wrap. I've been Franco.
I've been Jason.
I've been Jill Stein.